What's up everyone, I'm Eldridge, and it is once again time to talk about a recent stream that CSE had about their Camelot Unchained project. The big announcement this time was that the summer of streaming, or the hot Streamy Summer as they are now calling it, is in full effect and will start next week and will go on for several weeks. And over this time we will get all sorts of art streams and programming streams and all that good stuff, as well as plenty of information dumps and Q&As. And as always, I'm of course going to make videos about anything that is of greater interest. Not that the art streams aren't of great interest, they are pretty cool, but they're not really something that I can do anything with. But I will also use this opportunity to start my own streaming. Yes, that is right. I'm not going to start quite on Monday like CSE is doing because I still have some setting up to do, but towards the end of the week, or at the very latest the start of the following week, I'm going to start streaming on a regular basis. And I'm going to start streaming with, I'm going to call it sort of a history of Camelot Unchained, which means I'm going to play and talk about games that have influenced Camelot Unchained in its design. So obviously there's going to be streams about Dark Age of Camelot, there's going to be streams about Warhammer Online, and maybe even just games that are similar to Camelot Unchained or use similar approaches, like Gloria Victis. We shall see what exactly I'm going to stream, but I am going to stream. I will of course make some kind of announcement video once I exactly know when I can start streaming. That kind of depends on exactly when I get all my stuff set up and if my internet doesn't act up or go crazy. It has been stable for a while now, so I'm really hoping that it's going to be fine for the stream. The channel is already set up. It's twitch.tv/CloakingDonkey, so if you want to already follow it so you can see whenever I'm streaming, you can go ahead and do that. There's also a link in the description. But with that bombshell out of the way, let us get back to this stream, because there was actually some really interesting information contained within. So the first thing Mark Jacobs wanted to tell us about was the rehabilitation and how it was going, because obviously that is the thing that we are waiting on basically to get our hands on the beta. And so he gave us a few examples of what they did with the ability system, the most interesting of which to me was that they added an ability for two things to work in tandem. And he wasn't talking about two players doing a spell together or something like that, but actually talking about the left hand doing something and the right hand doing something as well. Which is of course really cool and opens up a lot of design space. A mage could throw a fireball with his right hand and empower the fireball with his left. And a warrior could block an attack with the shield on his left arm and then repost or stab the attacker in the gut with the sword that he's obviously carrying in the right hand. But beyond that, there are of course so many more things you could do with a system like that, and I find it really, really intriguing. Because I'm gonna say I wasn't a big fan of the combat in Skyrim, but the one thing I loved was the two-hand magic system that let you combine two kinds of magic, or you could do, I don't know, magic in your left hand and then have a sword in your right hand, and I love that system. So if something like that could come into Camelot Unchained, that would be quite fantastic, and I would be really hyped about that. Also concerning beta, there is progress being made on islands. He wasn't much more specific than that, but hey, they are at least making progress on islands, so I'm guessing we're gonna see islands in beta 1 and they will be functional with water in between and probably no player-controlled boats quite yet. I would imagine that that will probably take a little bit longer, but hey, baby steps, right? And then we had a little bit of a Q&A. Not a particularly long Q&A this time, but Mark wanted to keep it quite short as it was his last day of work. He's gonna take the next week off. But we did get one or two really cool tidbits from the Q&A, and I did not want to keep those from you. First of all, we might get to see the updated crafting document, so all the theory around crafting and the crafting classes, before the end of July. Now, whether or not this is going to be a public thing or if it's just going to be on the forums, we don't quite know yet, but we are definitely going to get to see it, and I'm hoping that it will be at least sort of public enough that I'm going to be able to tell you about it. Because I have to say, I'm definitely looking forward to the crafting the most at the moment. Not that I'm not interested in the other parts, but the crafting really is gonna have to be good. Because especially after having played Gloria Victis, I am once more reminded that a good crafting system can make a game just so much better. And I really want to hear about all these nitty-gritty details enclosed in this new document. An interesting question directed at Mark personally was what system of the BSC days he was feeling most comfortable about right now, or most hopeful about, I should say. And his answer was the ability crafting system. Because of how the development of the rehabilitation is going currently, Mark feels that no matter how that system is going to actually turn out in the end, it's going to be a lot of fun. He did say, of course, like a lot of the other batshit crazy ideas, that some of these things might have to change because they just turn out to be not very practical or fun in-game. And I've talked about this before, there are plenty of these batshit crazy ideas that could go batshit crazy wrong. But it's still a good idea to try them because you never know. That's how you get innovation, is you try completely ludicrous ideas that nobody has thought of before and you just see how it works out. And if it works out well, then congratulations, you just innovated on the genre. And if it doesn't work out, then well, go back to the wheel because the wheel just works. But yes, he said whether or not he will be able to push through his entire vision of the ability crafting system, or if we're going to get something that's a little bit more toned down and not quite as crazy complex, the system will still be fun in whatever iteration it makes it to the live game. Because even if it has to be toned down, it will still very much influence your day-to-day gameplay. Furthermore, he reassured us that Beta 1 will get the exact same amount of abilities as was planned before the rehabilitation, and that they wouldn't want to delay the game any longer to put in more abilities, and also don't want to compromise on the abilities just to rush the game out a little bit quicker. And I completely agree on this. I mean, at this point, we have had so many delays that it just does not make sense to compromise on the vision for Beta 1 now. It does not make any sense to cut corners to rush it out any sooner because, well, we've already waited this long now, might as well just wait another couple of weeks. And at the same time, putting in more stuff to delay it even longer totally doesn't make sense either. Because, well, we have been waiting so long, we don't want to wait another half year for the beta, because that would start making people very antsy, I would imagine. And then a few things from the early days of the Camelot Unchained campaigning were mentioned, like for example the stat differences between races and genders. And if the team was still going ahead with these, and Mark said that yes, that has absolutely not changed, and he really doesn't want to budge on these specific things because they just add so much choice to a game. And now listen, I am completely in agreement with this. Not only because I'm a horrible realism fetishist, and something that could actually get me to care about my characters again, because usually I don't really care whether or not my character is male or female, I just pick whichever one looks less goofy in armor. Making a choice based on stats and strengths and weaknesses, now that's a lot more interesting. Mark was then asked if he had any batshit crazy ideas for a post-launch scenario for Camelot Unchained, and yes, apparently he does, but he doesn't want to let us know about them, because right now the most important thing in his mind, and he's totally right in this, is Beta 1 and getting Beta 1 out the door. On this specific issue, I could not agree more. Batshit crazy stuff for post-launch is great, and when the time comes, I'm going to be all over that and gushing on video. But right now, we need to get into beta so we can start actually testing this game and having discussions about specifics instead of having discussions about ideas. And then lastly, in these coming weeks, we're also going to get new information about guilds and groups and their UI and how it's all going to work with the system and in the game and all that sort of stuff. And I imagine we're going to hear about all sorts of other stuff concerning the game as well, and I could not be more excited. You have no idea how excited I am to talk about all these things on video and on stream, don't forget. And maybe once we have that information, we might also be able to talk about a donkey guild, maybe. But I shall leave that for another time. So that's it for this particular stream summary. Look forward to more Camelot Unchained content in the coming weeks. But until then, I've been the CloakingDonkey, and I'll see you in another video.